Okay, so it's official. James Harden, as well as PJ Tucker, as well as an additional player, got sent packing away from the Philadelphia 76ers to the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers, in return, send a bunch of players, Kenneth Martin Jr., some draft picks, some conditional picks, some second-round picks, another pick later on down the road, a bunch of picks, bunch of players to the Philadelphia 76ers. In return, the Los Angeles Clippers, get PJ Tucker and James Harden. I'm going to basically tell y'all who won, who lost. I really think, to be perfectly honest with you, this was the best deal the Philadelphia 76ers were going to ever get from James Harden. I think the Philadelphia 76ers purged the heck out of the Los Angeles Clippers. I think the Los Angeles Clippers are in desperate mode. Steve Ballmer and those guys over there, they have to do something. And at the end of the year, and a lot of people are talking about this, at the end of the year, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, as well as James Harden and Russell Westbrook, they're all going to be free agents. What they're going to do after that? Okay, stop it. Best case scenario, they re-sign these players, or two of these players, or maybe one of these players. Worst case scenario, if these players want to go to other ball clubs, they're the only team that can give this player a max contract. Kawhi Leonard is not going to go anywhere else unless he gets a max contract. So you know what that means. That means that they're going to have to trade. If Kawhi Leonard no longer wants to be with the Los Angeles Clippers, the team that wants Kawhi is going to have to make a trade. They're going to be sending a bunch of players and draft picks. The same thing with Paul George and James Harden. I'm not too sure about Russell Westbrook. I don't think there's going to be a huge market next season if all of these guys become free agents, because the odd man out is going to be Russell Westbrook. But as far as Paul George, as far as Kawhi Leonard, and a certain stint to James Harden, there's going to be a boatload of teams that would want two of these guys, one of these guys, or all of these guys. Okay, so that means that if these guys want max contracts, those teams are going to have to make an offer to the Clippers. The Clippers max these guys out, and then they send them to wherever they want to go. And then clearly, that means that the Los Angeles Clippers are going to be in rebuilding mode next season. But let's talk about this season and what does this trade mean for both ball clubs. All right. At the end of the day, I just feel like there's too many guys on the Los Angeles Clippers that play one way. Maybe out of all of those guys, Kawhi Leonard would possibly do a little bit more as far as being a facilitator, as far as playing on defense, doing the other things. Kawhi Leonard can also play without the ball. As far as James Harden and Russell Westbrook, I mean, this is the exact same reason why it didn't work in Houston when they were together, when they was a tandem together. And that's the reason why the Houston Rockets wasn't very successful with these guys. They didn't win a title with either of these guys because both of these guys play the same way. They need the ball. They desperately, Seek and Susan need the ball in order to be very, very successful. As individuals, that's great, but as a team concept, that's very, very bad. And that's the reason why Russell Westbrook got traded out of Houston to the Washington Wizards at that particular time. And then James Harden was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. And, a lot of people, Keyshawn said on Undisputed, well, that was a bad trade. Because the Brooklyn Nets, they were in turmoil. I don't think the Brooklyn Nets were in turmoil. I just think they wanted to make Kevin Durant happy. But low-key, I didn't think it made Kyrie Irving happy. Okay? So, but nevertheless, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, they play the exact same way. They desperately need the ball. Paul George can play without the ball. He can be a decent defender. I think Paul George can orchestrate the offense from his perspective, as well as Kawhi Leonard. A lot of people are saying doom and gloom on this, but they're not really telling you guys why it's doom and gloom. I think in a perfect scenario, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can play without the ball and be very, very successful of doing other things. All right. Plus, both of these guys are injury prone, so you're not going to have both of these guys throughout all 82 games. I mean, you would love to have them, but you're not going to have them playing all 82 games. This player entitlement era, I'm pretty sure Kawhi Leonard, that means Kawhi Leonard is going to play less games. He's going to, sit down a lot. Paul George likely wants to do that as well. Russell Westbrook loves playing all 82 games. He wants to play the most games. So this is very beneficial to Russell Westbrook. And James Harden, he'll play, but he's injury prone himself. So you got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden. They're all injury prone. All right. Plus, they all pretty much play similar. Someone is going to have to, think of the bigger picture and possibly, do other things. All right. And I feel like that person has to be mature, and that person has to understand the bigger picture. He's going to have to look at the bigger picture as far as, okay, clearly I can't demand the ball 80% of the time, because now we got to feed the beast with Russell Westbrook, but we also got to feed the beast with James Harden. I think this could be a nightmare if James Harden and Russell Westbrook don't gel. But luckily for the Los Angeles Clippers, they have played this tandem one time before in Houston. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard wanted this trade. So you gave them their blessing. So everybody should be happy that they're all together. I think this hurts their bench. I even go a step further. It's going to hurt the talent of the team, because you're not going to go as far if you don't have all of these guys on the team. Now, eventually, if they stumble into a losing season, okay, Ty Lue's got some decisions to make. All right, are you going to try to play all of these guys again and they continue to lose, or hope that they play themselves out of a losing streak, or you start reducing minutes, or maybe coming off the bench? Now, Russell Westbrook played off the bench for the Los Angeles Lakers, and they got a little better by them doing it that way. Do you think James Harden wants to play off the bench? No. James Harden feels like just him alone is going to make a team very, very successful. Okay? You definitely not going to get Paul George or Kawhi Leonard of the concept of playing off of the bench. So, I feel like as far as the Los Angeles Clippers go, this doesn't mean it clearly puts them over the top. Younger teams that are going to be competing this year, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, like the Sacramento Kings, maybe the Memphis Grizzlies once they get back Ja Morant, the Utah Jazz, possibly, but they're in rebuilding mode. The Denver Nuggets, I feel like the Denver Nuggets are going to have a great chance of repeating. The Golden State Warriors, and maybe the Los Angeles Clippers can beat the Golden State Warriors. Maybe they'll tie in the series. Likewise with the Los Angeles Lakers. I do feel like all three of these teams are going to be cellar dwellers, because I don't think the Los Angeles Clippers, the Los Angeles Lakers, nor the Golden State Warriors are going to win the title with what they have. They gotten too old too fast. They gotten too old and too expensive too fast. There's no future in front of them when you talk about the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Golden State Warriors. This is it, okay? And I can see this not working as much as being very effective. I think as great as, maybe if the Clippers got these players in their prime while they were somewhat still young, I could possibly push them as far as, winning the title. I don't think this leapfrog them is going into the title, but I do feel like they have enough there for them to be in the playoffs, and who knows, okay? Maybe they got enough there. If they don't make it to the play, I feel like they could get the 7 or 8 seed, or they have to go into the play-in tournament and, roll the dice in the playoffs. Maybe they can, maybe enough injuries or enough plays that go their way, they might make it in, they might sneak into the finals, right? They don't have anybody on that roster that can, handle the best teams in the West, particularly the Denver Nuggets. They have no one there. Now, PJ Tucker, he's an enforcer, but I think he's, way beyond his prime. I think when he was with the Miami Heat, he did very well with the Miami Heat. But James Harden demanded to have him with the Philadelphia 76ers last season. It had its moments, but it didn't have a lot of moments, all right? But with PJ Tucker and these three guys right here, I just don't see this working out at all for the Clippers. You could put a bow on crap, and it's just still crap. Okay, I'm not saying that they're crap, they're trash, they're garbage juice, but I just don't see anything that could. I just can't make a great argument that this is going to this right here. This tandem right here that you see is going to make it into the NBA Finals. I just don't see it, all right? Maybe I just don't see it, all right? A lot of stuff has to happen in order for the Clippers to make it to the Finals. That's how bad this could possibly work, all right? Now, let's flip over to the other side of the Eastern Conference Finals. Sorry I spent too long on the Los Angeles Clippers. I'll try to be brief with the Philadelphia 76ers. The Philadelphia 76ers, what does this deal mean for the Philadelphia 76ers? Well, obviously, Daryl Morey got a thorn out of his ass with James Harden. He got James Harden up and out of here. He also got a sucker as the Clippers to take on PJ Tucker in his contract, okay? And he just purged the crap out of the Los Angeles Clippers. It seems like the Los Angeles Clippers were more desperate to do something than Daryl Morey was to be desperate to get James Harden up and out of there, all right? He got way too much for James Harden and PJ Tucker. He purged the crap out of the Clippers. He's got a bunch of draft picks that he can flip to make the team better with Joel Embiid. I think with this deal, and I said this in my previous video yesterday about the Philadelphia 76ers, I feel like the Philadelphia 76ers are in rebuilding mode. Now, they're not going to publicly say it, but it would not surprise me none if they just keep things the way they are and Philadelphia makes it into the playoffs, but they barely make it into the second round and lose in the second round, or possibly lose in the first round. And over the summer, you're going to be hearing talk that Joel Embiid wants to get up out of there with the quickness. I think the honeymoon is over with Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. I think Daryl Morey knows it. I think Joel Embiid knows it. There's hardcore Philly fans that know it as well. You got your casual fans that don't see it. But I'm going to try to make y'all understand this. If you're a Philadelphia 76er fan or a Joel Embiid fan, I'm going to try to make this clear to you. Even with James Harden and Joel Embiid, and let's just say hypothetically they still kept Ben Simmons, they still don't have enough to run roughshod in the East, because everybody in the East has gotten better than the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's just run it down the line. Now, when I say they got better, I don't necessarily mean they got better enough to advance further into the playoffs or got better to win a title. Some of these teams I'm about to mention, their futures look a lot brighter than the Philadelphia 76ers before this trade happened. And let's run it down the line. Let's start off with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a better team than the Philadelphia 76ers last year. Future looks bright as well. So even if this phase of the Cleveland Cavaliers doesn't work, they haven't given up a lot on their future to just try this again at some point later on down the road for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Cleveland Cavaliers got some ways to play around with. Okay, let's look at another team. Let's look at the New York Knickerbockers. And a lot of people are going to sit up there and say, the New York Knicks? Huh? The New York Knicks are in a better situation than the Philadelphia 76ers before this deal. The New York Knicks have players on their squad that teams would love to have on their squad. Plus, they can play around, and they still got some of their draft picks. Not all, but some. So, and they're a better team. They're just simply a better team. Let's look at the Brooklyn Nets for a hot second, all right? The Brooklyn Nets, they have players that, when Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving left the Brooklyn Nets still made it to the playoffs without those guys. So they have a very competitive team. They got a lot of mismatched pieces. They're not household names. But they do have a team that's very competitive. And I feel like they're more competitive than the Philadelphia 76ers before this trade. And somewhat after this trade. Plus, they got draft picks from the Phoenix Suns, draft picks from the Dallas Mavericks. They got some of their draft picks. And plus, they got some interesting pieces on their roster that they can flip for draft picks. So their future still looks bright, and they have a competitive team. So they're on a teeter-totter, but it's balanced. They can go either way. I don't see the Brooklyn Nets making it into the NBA Finals. I think they're going to be a very competitive team. And I feel like if the Dallas Mavericks are struggling, those chances are going to increase highly of them getting a draft pick. All right. If the Phoenix Suns struggle, those draft picks are going to be smoking for the Brooklyn Nets. All right. Let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are a better team with the Philadelphia 76ers. Better than the Philadelphia 76ers. And that was before and after this trade. Okay, you got Dame Dollar, you got the Greek Freak, you got other players as well. Their future doesn't look as great as the teams I just mentioned, but they still have a future. And they're going to be very competitive for a long time. They're going to be competitive for the next 3 to 5 years. So, Milwaukee Bucks face is going to be in a place for the next 3 or 5 years, particularly in the East. Because I feel like ultimately this is what's going to happen to the East once I get through ranking down teams that are better than the Philadelphia 76ers before. And a lot of these teams are still better than the Philadelphia 76ers after this trade. Okay? Let's go down the road. Let's talk even further. The Boston Celtics are a better team before and after this trade. Sure, they don't have a lot of their draft picks. All right, I get that, but they already cultivated and drafted the players that they needed. Okay, Tatum, Brown, they're going to be an extraordinary duo for years to come. They're going to be very competitive for the next 3 to 5 years. They're not going anywhere. Plus, they got Porzingis. Plus, they got the player that was with Milwaukee that got traded in that Dame Dollar situation that went to the Blazers, and the Blazers traded him to the Boston Celtics. I can't think of his name right now. His name escaped me, but it'll come to me. And plus they got the player from Memphis. They got a good squad. They got a good bench. I feel like the Boston Celtics are going to win a title in the next couple of years. Okay, it's going to be Boston and Milwaukee anyway in the East. Anywho, all right. Look at the Chicago Bulls and the Orlando Magic. Now, I know people are going to tell me I'm tripping, but just give me a second to explain where I'm going to. I feel like the Chicago Bulls and the Orlando Magic future is more brighter than the Philadelphia 76ers before this trade. Now, after this trade, okay, one could argue the Philadelphia 76ers future is brighter than both of those teams combined. One could argue that. Plus, but I think what propels them a little bit over Philadelphia, they got more interesting pieces that other teams may want. We don't know how Ball is going to play out with the Chicago Bulls. He may, come back from that injury and just, be an all-star, or they may have to, trade him to another player, to another team. But Alonzo Ball, trade value is still decent. It's still solid. There's a slew of teams that would be interested in him if he's healthy. I think Orlando, they've been, with Orlando, they have, drafted some players that we don't know if they're going to be good or bad, but we got to let it play out. I think they got some decent players. I think they got a couple of solid players. All right. But they already drafted these players, and these players are already playing. So that gives them an advantage over Philadelphia, because Philadelphia hasn't even made any decisions in the NBA draft, because the NBA draft hasn't started. The NBA draft won't start until the end of this season, midway in the spring and summer. And by that time, Orlando definitely know what they have with the players that they just drafted in this year's NBA draft and last year's NBA draft. All right? So they're Orlando is in a Orlando's is a head start. They have a head start over the Philadelphia 76ers, particularly when it comes to rebuilding. And then you got the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, a lot of those players that they drafted and they depended on to make it into the NBA Finals. They're still there. But I do feel like this is it. this is the swan song for the Miami Heat. If the Miami Heat doesn't win the title, it would not surprise me none if they start trading away some of their core players to other ball clubs, particularly contending ball clubs, and they start this thing over again. Okay? But I do like the Miami Heat's future when you look at their draft picks and everything like that. I like their future, and I like the system of the Miami Heat. Pat Riley's still there. The owner's still there. Eric is still there. They somewhat have a system, a winning, successful system that keeps them legit for every NBA season. So I like their chances in the future better than Philadelphia chances. Okay? And I just feel like, look, Philadelphia, if you don't if you don't get it, you're never going to get it. This trade for Philadelphia that Philadelphia did, this is clearly a rebuilding move. They are rebuilding. Now, they're not going to publicly say it, and they're not even going to publicly say it to Joel Embiid. I'm pretty sure they're going to sell him and pitch him the opportunities that they have to upgrade the roster for this year. But long term, this is a rebuild for Philly. And it would not surprise me none if Philly doesn't go anywhere. They get bounced in the first or second round. Joel Embiid starts demanding a trade, which Philadelphia is hoping for Joel Embiid to say that. And they send him someplace else, and they get a slew of draft picks. So now they got draft picks for James Harden. They got a slew of draft picks from James Harden. And they're going to get a slew of draft picks from Joel Embiid. All right. I'm just telling you guys, the players, if people think that the players that they acquired from the Clippers is going to make them significantly better than the Milwaukee Bucks or the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers, you're bugging. You are bugging. All right. I think this, if you look at it and you look at these swaps, these first round, these second round picks, this is for the future of the Philadelphia 76ers. So, yeah, I mean, it's an end of an era for the Philadelphia 76ers. Trust the process movement. They was in the draft. They selected Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. They had success with that tandem. I didn't think they utilized that tandem very, very well. I think they gave up on Ben Simmons too soon. I think the Philadelphia 76ers fans abandoned Ben Simmons too soon. But you reap what you sow. And ever since they made that trade to send Ben Simmons to Brooklyn, in return, they got James Harden. I think retrospect, they're looking at it like, damn, if we had to do that all over again, we probably would have just kept Ben Simmons another couple of years till he got his head straight. Now, Ben Simmons is still mentally still rehabilitating and things of that nature. Mental health is a serious thing, folks, all right? But I felt like the Philadelphia 76er fans and that organization treated it too lightly, and they gave up too fast. And I would have just kept Ben Simmons with Joel Embiid, worked it out, hash it out, try to hash it out between the two and build around that. And who knows? You probably could have gotten James Harden without giving up Ben Simmons, depending on how desperate the Brooklyn Nets wanted James Harden up out of there. All right. I said that James Harden and Joel Embiid was not going to go anywhere, and I've been proven right again. It's a sad order of things. The trust the process movement. You guys gave up on Ben Simmons. I guarantee you, if you guys are watching this video, the Philly fans, y'all would reevaluate how y'all feel. And once again, this is sports is 95% emotion and 5% logical. And wherever, it's peer pressure. What if there's a big group of people saying, F this player and F this team, well, guess what? Everybody's going to be saying F this player, F this team. Okay? It's too emotional. I think if Daryl Morey was there, I think he would have, hold on to Ben Simmons a little bit longer. Let's put it that way. But end of an era, and it is what it is. But guys, tell me what you think. I know this was an extremely long video. I do apologize. By the way, Just My Opinion podcast, the live stream will be back up and running next Monday. Had some technical difficulties why I couldn't upload it. Really wasn't really a lot to talk about. But yeah, I will see you guys later. I'm up out of here. Deuces.